Good morning, everyone in attendance and those listening on WRMN Radio. We're glad that you are listening in that way. We thank you for coming. We're about ready to begin a very solemn service and ask you, as I said a moment ago, to please silence your cell phones if you haven't. This is Elgin's 156th Memorial Day program and the 132nd conducted by the Elgin Patriotic Memorial Association. My name is Jerry Turnquist, and I'm honored to serve as your MC this morning. At this time, we'd like to ask those who are able to please stand and render the proper salute, and as we proceed with the posting of colors, also remain standing for the singing of the national anthem and invocation that will follow immediately. So we're already in place with our colors.
Over guard, stand hut. Forward, arms. Stand, arms.
Our combined color guard this morning is American Legion Post 57, American Legion Riders Post 57, and Veterans of Foreign Wars number 57. The national anthem will be performed by the Elgin Master Chorale under the direction of Director Andy Lewis.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets were glad, the bombs bursting in air, came through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the hope of the brave?
Thank you.
Arms. Over arms. Ready, rest.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Thomas Berry, Chaplain at Great Lakes Base, for our invocation.
Let us pray. Eternal God, we gather on this Memorial Day of the 27th of May in the city of Elgin to honor all our fallen, courageous heroes. Each and every day, we and many others in the world enjoy freedom because of these brave men and women who lived and died for the love of the United States of America and protecting and preserving peace all around the world. We turn to you, all-loving Lord, as we pause today in this moment to remember and give thanks to all men and women of the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard, National Guard, and all reservists who afford us the comfort to stand here today. Yes, we stand here for what they have done and for what they've given their lives. So help us to look beyond the graves, the tombstones, and see their lives as a testament to truth. We continue to express tremendous value to every one of those fallen military members and to their families and friends for their ultimate sacrifice of laying down their lives for the people they loved, the country they loved, and the freedom they fought for. Amen.
We're so fortunate to have many things in Elgin, and certainly among them is our Elgin Master Chorale. I've worked and heard them perform many times, and we didn't quite have things figured out in some other years where to place them. We brought them right up here by the mics, and they have awesome voices, so they're glad that they learned themselves our program this morning. We particularly this morning want at this time mention all elected officials are with us. We're not going to name anybody today. We're going to try to keep our program moving. But the one that we would particularly like to note is Wally Shells, World War II veteran, who's back there with us. And we thank you very much for coming. At this time, we also especially want to thank Sam Olson for videotaping our today's program. A copy will be available on the city website, and as Sam told me, various other places too. So look for those. And again, we're live on WRMN Radio at this time for those that can't get here by distance or various other things that might preclude that. We have a great attendance here today. The weather's great, and it's really good to see that. Our program, we just introduced a World War II vet. Our program today honors all our veterans who made the ultimate sacrifice, but as you've noticed in the program and our other publicity, we particularly put the focus this year on D-Day and those who were part of that event. The 80th anniversary of D-Day is June 6th, 1944, and of course it's 2024. So 80 years ago, June 6th was D-Day. There's so much that can be said and noted about that, and we're glad to have Mr. Shells here. I don't know, I don't want to take a lot of other time, but certainly salute all our World War II veterans. I came to this program, I've been coming to it for years when I was much younger. There were quite numerous here, but there are those left yet today, and we're glad they're part of it. Just a quick note about D-Day and Elgin. We lost about a dozen men in Elgin during the second half of June 1944. That's when Elgin was a city much smaller than we are today. And World War II in general, we lost over 100 men in World War II. So let's always remember the sacrifices that they made. You'll note in the program, the next thing that we have is a welcome by our Mayor David Captain. So I'd like to ask him to come up here now.
Thank you, Jerry, and welcome everyone on this beautiful day to a beautiful place and an honored, hallowed ground. There's a saying that says we leave no man behind. That goes back to Roman times. And I think it's important for us to remember and to honor those who have given their life for us to be here today, and for to honor the soldiers and the men and women who have given their lives in the armed services, well over 1 million people in the history of the United States. But I'd like to go one step further, and I think I'd like to dedicate myself and dedicate this community to not forgetting the people that served. And we have many people that are challenged because of service, injuries, mental issues. I don't want people to be forgotten, and I think that's as important. We're not going to leave people behind, but we're not going to forget them either. We're going to honor everybody that serves. The City of Elgin over the next year, we'll try to do our best to make sure that every veteran receives the assistance that they need and receives the help that they do, both mental and physical. I think that would be the best way to honor the people that gave their life, and that's would be what they would ask of us, is just remember those that are still serving and how we can as a community support them. Thank you all for being here, and this ceremony is one of the longest in the state of Illinois and goes back 150 years, statue back to the Civil War times, and I think that is indicative of our community, is that we don't forget. Thank you very much.
As Mayor Captain was alluding, we've been involved in Elgin with Memorial Day programs since the beginning. And we'll hear Logan's orders in just a minute that established Memorial Day in 1868. Elgin was part of that first Memorial Day. So fact, we'll hear that right now. Memorial Day arose in the aftermath of the Civil War, a tragedy that ended in 1865 and claimed the lives of over 60 Elgin men whose names are on this tall memorial in front of us. 68, I think, is what it is exactly. At first, each town honored its fallen soldiers separately. Then in 1868, retired Union General John Logan organized the first quote-unquote Decoration Day. Serving as a Commander-in-Chief of the Grand Army of the Republic, an organization of Union veterans, Logan issued his General Order Number 11. In it, he directed local veterans posts to honor the fallen on May 30th, 1868, by, quote, strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country. This tradition would continue year after year. Later, Decoration Day would be named Memorial Day. It has been a custom since the beginning, each year, to have someone, more recently a student, read Logan's Orders Number 11 at our program. And doing so this morning is young Marine Lance Corporal Sam Bishop. I'd like to bring him up here now.
General Order Number 11, Washington, D.C., May 5th, 1868. The 30th day of May, 1868, is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in the defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form of ceremony is prescribed, but posts and comrades will in their own way arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which have bound us together, the soldiers, sailors, and Marines, who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead, who made their breasts a barricade between their country and its foes? Their soldiers' lives were the reveille of freedom to a race in chains, and their deaths the tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that the consecrated wealth and taste of the nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of her slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths be invited, the coming and forgoing of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no evangelism of avarice or neglect, no ravages of time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. If other eyes grow dull, other hands slack, and other hearts cold in the solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remains to us. Let us then, at this time appointed, gather around their sacred remains, and garland the passionless mounds above them with the choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them the dear old flag they saved from dishonor. Let us in this solemn presence renew our pledges to aid and assist those whom they have left among us, a sacred charge upon the nation's gratitude, the soldiers and sailors, widow and orphan. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope that it will be kept up from year to year, while the survivor of the war remains to honor his memory, the memory of his departed comrades. He earnestly desires the public press to lend its friendly aid in bringing to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country in time for simultaneous compliance therewith. Department commanders will use efforts to make this order effective. By order of John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief, N.P. Chipman, Adjutant General.
Well done. That can be a tough read for many students over the years, and he moved through it very well. Congratulations. One thing that's a little different about the Elgin Patriotic Memorial Association that plans these observances, and that's all we do every year, by the way, is that's what we exist for by our bylaws. We're a little different than some organizations. We're composed of veterans and civic organizations. One of the parts of our program at this time is we like to have is our traditional roll call of deceased veterans of our veterans organizations. And I'm going to call them up here. This is in alphabetical order, and they will read the roll call of deceased veterans. Some may appear on more than one list because they have belonged to more than one organizations. I'd like to start with American Legion, Elgin Unit 57.
From American Legion Post 57, William Afrill. William A. Beisert, Jr. Richard Boss. Charles Felsky. Douglas Hope. John Krogsrud. Tim Sneed. Thank you.
The Elgin Navy Club, ship number 7.
The Navy Club Ship 7 of Elgin is glad to announce, again, no deaths.
The Lee Barrett Memorial AMVET Post 202.
Joe McGowan Sr., Elgin, Illinois. Jim Solarich, Streamwood, Illinois.
Oh, BFW? Okay.
Jerry Cowsert.
The Second Baptist Church and St. James Church of Elgin Veterans Ministry. George Kiles. Will Edmond. Thank you.
Moving forward, and I've cut and pasted what I have from the program. I hope I'm moving in the right order here. Flanders Fields is next. In Flanders Fields was written as the voice of a group of soldiers who had recently died in World War I battle. Their graves are marked by crosses with poppies growing among them. By speaking as a group and asking the readers to join in their struggle, these speakers suggest that war is a shared responsibility that affects everyone. Reading in Flanders Fields this morning is Linda Fagan.
In Flanders Fields, the poppies grow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands, we throw the torch to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. There is a response that America has done to Flanders Field, and there's several that are famous, and I'm going to read one of them. Rest ye in peace, ye Flanders dead. The fight that you so bravely led, we've taken up. And we will keep true faith with you who lie asleep. With a cross to mark the bed and poppies blowing overhead, where once his own like blood ran red, so let your rest be sweet and deep in Flanders Field. Fear not that ye have died for naught. The torch we threw, to us we caught. 10 million hands to hold it high, and freedom's light shall never die. We've learned the lesson that ye taught in Flanders Field.
Thank you, Linda. Elgin has so much musical talent. We're going to hear from one of them in just a moment now. The Northwest Baptist Bible Academy, under the direction of Dr. Mike Hall, will now perform a musical selection. Thank you again very much, Dr. Hall and your band. Next, going on to the reading of Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, I'd just like to note, in November 1863, President Abraham Lincoln gave his Gettysburg Address at the dedication of a national cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Several months earlier, it had been a three-day battle in which over 51,000 Americans died. In his remarks, Lincoln reminded everyone of the principles on which our country was founded, and the brave men who died protecting it did so for a noble cause and not in vain. Our country has had to fight many times since to protect its freedoms. It's been a long tradition to read Lincoln's Gettysburg Address on Memorial Day, and we hear about the ultimate sacrifice, and reminded of the ultimate sacrifice of those in our nation's history who never came home. Reading the Gettysburg Address this morning is young Marine Gunnery Sergeant Andrew Fadazio.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged in a great war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who have fought here thus far nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that these honored dead, that we take increased devotion to that cause for which they have gave the last full measure of devotion. We here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Thank you very much. You guys did a great job in your presentations here today. The next thing on our program is the presentation of floral tributes by our member organizations. A long tradition in Washington, D.C. on Memorial Day is the laying of a wreath by the President at Arlington National Cemetery. A similar solemn tribute in our program is the laying of wreaths by member organizations, the Elgin Patriotic Memorial Association, at the foot of our Civil War Memorial. And I'd like to read these groups to come up, and they are in alphabetical order. Not presenting a wreath, but which is already in front of us, is the City of Elgin, who provides us a very prominent wreath every year to set this memorial off. But in order, and I hope I've got everything okay here, in alphabetical order, is the Adoptive Cemetery. Presenting together are the American Legion Auxiliary, Unit 57, and the American Legion Riders, Post 57. Elgin Elks Lodge, number 737. The Elgin History Museum. The Elgin Navy Club ship number 7. The Elgin Riverside Club. Elgin Riverside. The Elgin Turners. The Elgin United Civic Association. The Elias Kent King Chapter, National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution. The Fraternal Order of the Eagles, hearing number 1057. The Knights of Columbus, Council 650. Lee Barrett Memorial Ambet Post, number 202. Operation Love. The Owls Athletic Club of Elgin. Second Baptist Veterans Group. The Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War. United Commercial Travelers, Elgin Council 412. And the Veterans of Foreign Wars Auxiliary, Post 1307. Elgin Moose is next on our list. We appreciate those solemn wreaths, solemn remembrances of our fallen. It's an annual tribute, as they said, each Memorial Day. So we thank you for those. This time I'd like to move on to the Memorial Day address. Jill Smith, U.S. Army veteran and Senior Vice Commander, American Legion Post 57, will discuss the significance and importance of Memorial Day. Jill.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here on this day of remembrance. They were brothers in arms, but also brothers bonded by sacrifice. Navy SEALs Nathan Gage Ingram and Christopher J. Chambers attempted to board an unflagged ship in the Arabian Sea that was carrying Iranian-made weapons to Yemen back on January 11th. As they were leaving their boat to climb the contraband ship, waves reportedly widened the gap between the two vessels. Chambers plunged into the water. Ingram jumped in to save him, and they were never seen again. The dangers inherent with military service are especially so with Navy Special Military Warfare operators, but they exist in every branch and in every military occupation. Today, we are here to honor more than 1 million men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation while serving in wars and missions since the American Revolution. Each story is unique, and each story represents heartbreak to the families and friends who are left behind to mourn. There was also Private Furman L. Smith, who served with the Army's 135th Infantry Regiment, 34th Infantry Division. In this year of the 80th anniversary of D-Day, 80 years ago, his unit came under intense fire from German forces near Lanubio, Italy. Severely outnumbered by the enemy, Private Smith tended to seriously wounded comrades, even as others withdrew. Smith emptied clip after clip of his M1 Garand rifle and killed at least 10 enemy soldiers before he was fatally shot. The 19-year-old from 6 Mile, South Carolina, was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. There's also Lieutenant Colonel Annie Ruth Graham. She served in the Army Nurse Corps during World War II, the Korean War, and finally, Vietnam. It was while she was assigned to the 91st Evacuation Hospital in Tui Wa that Graham succumbed to a stroke in 1968. She is only one of 8 women whose names are on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial located in Washington, D.C. Colonel William Rich Higgins, he was a Marine who served as a chief observer on a United Nations peacekeeping mission. On February 17, 1988, the veteran was driving on a coastal road in southern Lebanon when his car was suddenly blocked by another vehicle and he was taken hostage by Hezbollah terrorists. He endured months of torture before his captors finally released him and released a video of his hanging. He was declared dead by the U.S. government on July 6, 1990. He was survived by his wife Robin and daughter Christine. As proud Americans, we should all remember that our freedom is not free. It's only possible because heroes, some from our own families and neighborhoods, have paid a high price. It's that price which enables us to have ceremonies and observances like this in towns across this great country. The first Memorial Day wasn't even called Memorial Day. It's believed to have been celebrated with a parade of freed slaves and Union soldiers marching through Charleston, South Carolina in 1865. Waterloo, New York is actually considered the official birthplace of Memorial Day because after the town held observances on May 5th, 1866, General John Murray and General John A. Logan called on all of our communities to honor the war dead for every year. Logan had been impressed with how the South had honored Confederate soldiers for years. In 1868, Logan, who was head of the prominent veterans group, the Grand Army of the Republic, issued a proclamation that Decoration Day be observed nationwide. The date chosen was May 30th, specifically because it was not on the anniversary of any battle. It was a day to honor fallen veterans of all the American wars. Even so, many communities still did not want to observe Decoration Day because of their lingering resentments from the Civil War. The alternative name, Memorial Day, wasn't even commonly used until World War II, a two-front fight against tyranny in which more than 400,000 American service members would die. Among those heroes were men signaled out by President Ronald Reagan as he stood at an outdoor lectern in Normandy, France on June 6, 1984. Quote, "Behind me is a memorial that symbolizes the Ranger daggers that were thrust into the top of these cliffs," Ronald Reagan said. "And before me are the men who put them here. These are the boys of Point du Hoc. These are the champions who helped free a continent. These are the heroes who helped win a war," unquote. Many of those men rest in graves at Normandy American Cemetery. Others, well, they found peace at Arlington or in their hometown burial places. And many more survived the war and raised families under the peace and freedom that they and their brothers and sisters in arms fought so hard to achieve. In the American Legion preamble, we pledge to preserve the memories and incidents of our associations in all wars. We do not do this to pat ourselves on the back or to impress people with stories of our military service. We know what we did, but we are also witnesses. Veterans have seen heroism in its purest form. Veterans served alongside the very men and women that we remember here today. One such witness was Lou Conter. On April 1st, 2024, Lou passed away at the age of 102. He was the last survivor of the USS Arizona. During the Pearl Harbor observances in 2020, Lou said to the American Legion, quote, "We're not the heroes. The 1,177 who went down with the ship are the heroes. You have to remember, we got to go home, get married, have children and grandchildren, and we've lived a good life. Those who didn't get to do that should be called the heroes." End of quote. Lou's sentiment was undoubtedly influenced by his own humility, for he did serve heroically through his 26-year Navy career. But the larger point must also be remembered. We are able to raise families, continue careers, and live good lives because of the sacrifices made by young men and women who never came home. We must always remember them. May they all rest in peace. Thank you for being here. God bless America.
Thank you, Joe. Those are great words for us to put the day in focus. Memorial Day is the only day that our flag is flown at half-staff, from sunrise until noon. In keeping with that tradition, we will now raise the flag to full staff. This will be done by the American Legion Riders and Legion Barrett Memorial Amvet Post, number 202. Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to their color, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'd like to have our benediction next, please.
Let us pray. Now, as we come together with all Americans today and every day, we pay tribute and we express our gratitude to all that have gone on before us. We give thanks for their service, and we testify by our presence here today that their efforts were not in vain. We praise you, O God, King of the universe. Bless all who are present, would like to have been present, and will be present in future Memorial Day celebrations, now and forever, as we remember those who are willing to take the risk, to endure the heartaches, and to jump at the opportunities afforded them in making the world a safe, peaceful, and joyful place to live. We salute every member of the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard, National Guard, and all reservists who voluntarily joined our armed forces to preserve peace and security around the world. Amen.
Please continue standing for our rifle salute. For those unfamiliar with us, particularly children, this is considered the highest form of tribute to our honored dead.
Prepare to fire 3 volleys in honor of our fallen comrades. Prepare to unlock. Unlock. Left, right, face. Ready. Okay. Fire. Fire. Fire.
Please remain standing for the retiring of the color guard. This concludes our program. We thank you for coming. Your attendance has made it a great event, and we appreciate you coming. Hope to see you here next year for our next program. Thank you, everyone.